Yep, we're live to review what happened today. अगर day one में हमारा predictions काफी सही था, तो day two में we've gotten it awfully wrong. I don't think any of us saw this coming, especially from a certain Ollie Pope, जिसके बारे में day one में हमने काफी कुछ बात की थी in terms of his performances and all of that. We of course got Gurkirat and Nikhil, and we will be talking about this and a lot more. Gurkirat, let's start with you in terms of the day's proceedings. And did you have even the slightest of inklings कि ऐसा कुछ होगा आज?
No, I mean, you could have expected Root to bat well, maybe Stokes, maybe even Bairstow, but Ollie Pope scoring this much is definitely what I did not see coming, and for right reasons, because you saw how he batted in the first innings without showing a lot of confidence in his defense. He took his chances early on, but the good thing was that as his innings progressed, he became more confident, and to some extent that repertoire of shots he had, the sweeps and reverse sweeps, I do feel it unsettled the Indian spinners a little bit, and it helped him. And later on in the innings, even just before stumps, uh, you felt that his mindset was that I'll try to protect the stumps. If a ball beats me off the outside edge, it beats me. I mean, that's the most that I can do. So yeah, it's an innings that he will remember. It's an innings I think everyone will remember for a long time.
100%. Nikhil bhai, you can also chip in because again, this is already the second highest score in the third or fourth innings in the last 10 odd years. I'm not going further back because data ka issue hai. Nahi to I'm pretty sure even if we go further back, overseas batter ke liye in the third innings or the fourth innings, itne run banana, it's not easy whatsoever. In fact, England's 316, which is what they are at right now overnight, is already the first instance of an away team scoring more than 300 runs in the third or fourth innings in over 12 years. The last time this happened was in the 2012 series, again between India and England, coincidentally. But yeah, Nikhil bhai, Ollie Pope's innings, top notch.
Yeah, we talked about the rope for Pope, and it is exactly what I said in terms of what he will do if he gets in when he gives himself time. Paji touched upon the reverse sweeps and all. I mean, it discussed the exact same thing on day one in terms of what is it that he adds, and see these are the things that put people off. So that is what he did, and you could see that in the way England started. I mean, we talked about this yesterday as well. Okay, it's when Crawley and Duckett come out, on a slowish kind of deck, जहाँ पे ball slowly turn होगा. How they approach. I think the intent was set rightly by the two openers in that sense. And Pope just came in and he benefited out of it. And that is something you will at times see with some batters that in some situations they just thrive. And then not just took the mantle, but then he took it upon himself कि भाई अब मेरे को जो शॉट खेलना है मैं सब खेल सकता हूँ. And you saw that he was still playing with hands, but far more confident, far more decisive in terms of where I want to hit whom. And there was a time when Axel was going at over 5. So it just told you कि जो डेप्थ हम बात करते हैं कि if not Ashwin then Jadeja, if not Jadeja then Akshar. So they were good. I think Jadeja was bowling well, but a credit to Ollie Pope, made the most of all the risks that it took earlier. They came off, but then that's the risk that they will always take.
Yeah, and,
Yeah,
and just to add one thing, it's not always easy to play that much square of the wicket on a slowish pitch, because you really have to manufacture a lot of pace. And I was just looking at his wagon wheel on the cricket.com app. He scored 50 runs between
wait, is it me or I'm
नहीं,
guessing
नहीं.
Nikhil bhai to hai?
Yeah.
So yeah,
तो
we'll definitely talk a lot more about Ollie Pope as well. But फिलहाल again शुरू से शुरू करते हैं in terms of how the day began. India
yeah.
had 3 wickets, in their kitty. They had a lot of runs, at their disposal, so to say. They had a healthy lead, but we thought, Akshar and Jadeja would hopefully build on it. Not really to be the case. We lost our last 4 wickets. In fact, sorry, we were 6 down, not even 7 down. But we lost our last 4 wickets for next to nothing. We were bundled out for 436. Jadeja turning out to be our highest run scorer with 87 runs. We spoke about this yesterday. We had a lot of starts. Hopefully, one of them at least will go on to convert this into some, something more than just that, something more meaningful, maybe a ton even. Not to be the case. Joe Root, of course, the pick of the bowlers for England with a 4 for. England then, in turn, overnight, they've now ended the day with 316 for 6. Started off strongly with Crawley and Duckett. And then we saw, how it turned out. We saw that spell from Bumrah. Lots to talk about. Nikhil bhai, let's again start because we saw how the first innings fared. Smart of India to not have two bowlers bowl with the new ball throughout. They quickly realized that, Siraj abhi bhi rhythm mein nahi hai. He's sort of missing his lines. So they started with spin from one end, but England was still able to Bazball with the new ball.
Yeah, Bazball with the new ball. I think the thing that I think we should also talk about is the runs that India left out in the middle. Uh, I felt they probably had the right intent as per me, in terms of they were like, okay, we'll not do what we did yesterday. We will not play a lot of shots, and what we'll try and do is we'll try and get in today, and then go for our shots and look to build a very big lead. But what happened is Root got one, and Jadeja I think was very very unlucky कि भाई दो अंपायर्स कॉल पे आप अगर एलबीडब्ल्यू हो रहे हो तो इट्स लाइक I mean, it is something that we have spoken about far too many times, but it happens. And then you got Bumrah gets the one that keeps low. So I think that is also something that India will feel, they could have gotten a few more. And again, at that point of time, none of us felt that ये कम है 190 का lead. But in hindsight, it will be still be something that will feel, as Paji also said yesterday, okay, there were a few shots which you, with better execution, you would have a 250, 300 run ka lead. So again, that is there. And again, to come back to the point about pacers and spin, I think, as you said, right call by India in terms of starting with pace and spin. But you always knew. I mean, we discussed this yesterday itself. Okay, bhai, England is not going to change the approach, and that is the best way to go about it as well. Okay, in terms of what is the shot selection, and it is risky, but the kind of surface that it is, or jitna slow tha turn, it allowed them to not just hit through the line, but get the gaps. So I think that is something that where England should get the credit for. They made a game out of it, got a great start, and of course, we can now talk about Jasprit Bumrah.
We'll definitely talk about Jasprit Bumrah. Just one more English batter that I really want to talk about is Ben Duckett. Because this is again, he's not played a lot in these conditions. We also saw what he had to say in terms of his preparation and all of that. Gurkirat, have you been impressed with what you've seen? Because from what I understand, he's someone who sort of, if he's able to stick on for, 10, 20 overs, he scores runs at a brisk pace. He's very busy, which is a term we often hear in T20 cricket. He keeps himself busy in Test cricket, which is a very good thing given how Bazball has sort of become, the fulcrum of their, playing attitude and playing style. Happy with what you've seen so far in these conditions as well?
Yeah, the idea was right against spinners. The way he was, playing those reverse sweeps, because that was the only way you could have forced both the Indian captain and the Indian bowlers to do something different. Akshar, coming around the wicket to a left-hander is not something that you see very often. So you see that with Jadeja, but not that much with Akshar. So that him doing that was probably the first sign that okay, this ploy might work out. I do feel that while him going for a risky approach might help him against spinners, uh, he can look at better ways when it comes to countering pace. I mean, the way he got out was something that he was trying to do even in the first innings. He got lucky in the first innings in the sense that did not play on a lot. I think Nikhil tweeted last night about a couple of play ons being happening. It was not a play on, but you could see why he had tweeted that, because there were a lot of cuts, drives, slashes from very close to the body without any movement of the feet. So, and if you are going to be that chancy against Bumrah, who's fairly accurate, the side that you saw today can really happen a lot of times, because Bumrah doesn't really leave his mark that much even after being attacked. So probably can become a little tighter versus pace, because he will definitely have those shots. But and also, as we've been discussing, that once the ball gets older, gets soft, it becomes easier to bat, and we saw that today. Folks looked pretty comfortable until the point he got one grubber, about which you really can't do much about. So probably, if he can become a little tighter versus pace, it will only help England and his case.
Fair enough. Nikhil bhai, in terms of Duckett's batting, like happy with what you've seen as well, and the way he handles himself against spin in particular. Because again, the reason I stress on Duckett versus spin is because of what he himself had to say. But happy with those unconventional methods and them coming off for him.
Yeah, I think it is something that you will give it to the opener. क्योंकि देखो जब आप when you are sorry I got called out कि भाई don't switch languages, so sorry for it. But still we are still adding value in whichever way we can. But my point is with Duckett you have to give him that leeway, because if you don't play those shots you're not putting the plans of the bowlers off. As Padino also mentioned, कि you are making Akshar go change his basic plan, you are making Ashwin bowl quicker. ये सब तब होगा when you are putting that pressure back on the bowlers. So if you keep playing orthodox way, and that is his strength, what you have to realize is it's not that Duckett is playing it out of no choice. These are the shots that he often plays and they often come off for him. So which is why they have that freedom whereby they can keep playing those shots. Versus pace, yes. I mean, spoke about it yesterday as well. And it's not the first time and it won't be the last time where he gets out with a drag on. Because that is how he plays. He is cutting from very close to the body. So hoga. So that is something that definitely he'll feel ke, I can get better, because the thing that scares about all of such openers is if they get in and they bat big, they could really take the game away from you in very very quick time. And it's in on this day it may not look much because it is slowed down, but if it is a 250 300 kind of attack jahan pe any of these handy 45 50s, they could really change momentum. And we've seen that in the past like say the South Africa chase of 240 odd, it's that one partnership that breaks the momentum completely and then you're always playing catch up.
Very true, and it'll be very interesting to see, how India go about their business tomorrow. Given that now they've already conceded a lead, and I'm pretty sure, the atmosphere right now wouldn't be the greatest. There'll be a lot of drooping shoulders. They would want to sort of, put that aside, come up with a clean slate tomorrow, and start afresh. But of course, we won't be doing that. We will be picking the bones of what happened today. Nikhil bhai, you of course mentioned Bumrah. He's sort of slowly becoming like a jailbreak option for us, na? कि भाई कुछ और काम नहीं कर रहा है, बुला लो भाई बुमराह को, करा लेगा काम. And to be honest, on the one hand, you appreciate and you admire the craft that Bumrah has, but do you think it's also becoming a bit too dependent for us, as a side on him? Because it almost feels like it's Bumrah or nothing at this point in time. Even when the conditions are in favor of spinners, it's not even like, okay, we are playing at a surface that suits Bumrah's bowling and all of that. None of that. Even then, Bumrah comes in and delivers how. So how do you look at this? Like there's the glass half full way of looking at it. There's a glass half empty way of looking at it. Which way would you prefer?
See, I have always said that's the sign of great players, that they can do what Ravi Shastri said in terms of take the pitch out of the equation, and they can give you things that are like wow. You look back at Marsh dismissal, you look back at the Robinson wicket, you look back at moments like these where you feel it is something that the bowler is cultivating. Now the thing is, you cannot expect this to happen with many bowlers. That's also a very practical thing to have. Ke you don't make such bowlers. They come through, and then you have to nurture them and ensure that they stay in the system. What I do feel India at times should definitely get better at is, as you said, in terms of reliability and showing that confidence in others also. So you've seen that in the past. Paji talked about just for a few days back about how Aksar was used during the BGT, how Siraj has been used now. So it's a very tricky slope, because you are saying, okay, if I give the ball to Siraj and he gives away a few runs, I don't want to do that now. But the point is, you have to groom people to be the bankable guys that okay, if something is not happening, it cannot only always be one guy, because I mean, Bumrah was cramping up at the end of the day, and many would have had various thoughts in their mind. Ki, bhai, no, Bumrah cannot cramp. Something can't happen to Bumrah. What will happen? So it tells a lot about how much you trust that person, how skillful that person is in terms of giving you those breakthroughs, irrespective of the wickets. So you can't overbowl him as well. So I think this is where management, the bowlers, and everybody has to come together and form a unit. Ke, bhai, we will be the guys who will step up. So I think it's a good test. I'll say it's also good that it's happening right at the start of the series, so that you are also very aware. Okay, you can't always just go back to two people. And I think just to add, maybe we may talk about it, not talk about it. I think Jadeja did beat the bat far too many times to not get the edge. तो वो शायद हर गेम में ना हो. There will be other games where he may bowl poor but still get a lot of wickets. So that can keep happening. But I think two bowlers who I really look forward to in terms of that kind of improvement is Aksar and Siraj. in terms of how many chances that they get. I think in the first innings, Aksar was very, very, I feel much better. Maybe not so much in this one.
Definitely, and sticking to that Bumrah point, Nikhil, aapne kuch, like you made a couple of really good points. One, of course, being that he shouldn't be overused because that could definitely be a cause for concern in the long term. Gurkeet, how would you look at this? Because Siraj again, like just not found his rhythm, despite this being his home venue and all of that. बिल्कुल rhythm नहीं है. Like initially he bowled 2 overs, बीच में भी एक over डलवाया गया था उनसे, and hardly seemed in rhythm, like lacked the control that was expected off of him, which in turn forced Rohit to just, use Akshar, Ashwin, and Jadeja again and again. So, how do you look at Bumrah's role? And again, we can't sort of talk enough about the craft, right, that he has.
Yeah, so I want to go back to the first question that you had, which you asked Nikhil about the over dependency. And Nikhil answered that great players do tend to take pitch out of the equation. I also feel that great players have this aura that they will make it look like, and it is for a reason that teams are over dependent on them. You look at Dale Steyn at his peak. When nothing was working, he was the cheat code. Like nothing's happening, you go to Dale Steyn. So for Australia, it was Shane Warne. Nothing's happening for Sri Lanka. It was Mutaya Muralidharan. So that will always also be the case because it's a luxury which captains want to use. They're like, "Theek hai, I have this. Why do I want to risk everything?" We saw England doing it briefly with Jofra as well. So that will happen, and it's a very fine line to walk on. कि आपको कब overuse करना है and how you want to maximize this usage. I just feel, what happened in the first session today, where England were 83 for 1 after 14 overs or something. I think that played a part in the entire day's play. That just made India be a little more defensive in terms of their field settings, in terms of also the bowling changes that they wanted. Maybe if England were, say, 50 for 1 or 50 for 2, maybe then we might have seen a longish Siraj spell. I just think with England continuing to score runs, Rohit became a little conservative that, okay, I do not want to risk this. So, first test of the series, you can also understand why a captain doesn't also want to, let go of that control or wants more control and not want to risk it. So, probably we'll have to wait for the second or third test to see can India manage Siraj better or give him confidence at times where he needs it. Also, I think when he came back to bowl, probably he was asked to look for reverse swing. And when you've not bowled much and you're straight away asked to look for reverse swing, immediately control nahi aane wala. Because with reverse swing, many times you've seen a lot of bowlers talk about that you really don't know how much and from what angle will the ball will swing. So you will try to go for the fuller ones. It also happened with Bumrah where he was trying to bowl a Yorker, but it went went down towards the leg side. So first innings you can complain about Siraj not being on the mark. Second innings, I don't think he had much of an opportunity also. So a very difficult rope to walk on.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And since you mentioned Bumrah, Siraj, and how they need to be used, we can't not talk about the captaincy and how, India bowled today. In particular, how the changes were brought in and how the field placements were in. I'll just take this comment. He says, or rather, Pluto says, England's day, but that's shitty captaincy from Rohit to allow the single so easily. Would have loved to see more attacking fields, but all I see is boundary riders, even when Pope is in his 140s. A very valid point because it's something we were discussing off air as well. That despite having a lead of 190 runs, we had a very defensive field setup from the beginning. It's not like we were aggressive and only when Pope started scoring did we sort of, retreat and become a bit defensive. We were defensive through and through. Gurkha, how do you look at that? Like, why was there any reason behind that, or do you think this was just a bit too silly, one might say, from Rohit Sharma, because you have the lead, you want to go for the kill, which is what Virat Kohli has done time and time again with his side. Not to be the case today.
Yeah, like I said, it had a lot to do with how England batted in the first session and then how the pitch was. Because you look at the 6 wickets that have fell, 5 wickets have been LBW or bowled. There have been 4 bolts, right? And 1 LBW. So I think the lack of pace on the pitch also played a part wherein it became more and more clear that the best way to get batters out is to probably attack the stumps, as there was not much carry. Probably, Rohit was hoping for a few aggressive strokes that go to the hands of fielders in the deep. Uh, maybe you feel that there could have been an extra fielder somewhere around the bat just to create that additional doubt. Because you saw when Ashwin started off with the new ball, there were a few bat pads that did not really go to hand. So probably that could have been better, but it also becomes a very difficult kind of balance to find, because sometimes you will have a fielder at leg slip for a bad pad, but the ball will go to short leg. When you'll have it at short leg, it will go to leg slip. So वो बहुत it just becomes very difficult to sometimes plan, because you really don't know where that edge will go. So yeah, I think once the ball went softer, India just felt that getting those bat pads will not be easy. Probably they could have had in out fields or bowled to a specific plan, but it's something that we have discussed right throughout, not just today, that with the bowling side, there has been shortage of plan Bs and plan Cs when attacked, and somewhat it was relevant and on display today also.
Nikhil bhai, what do you think? Do you agree with Gurkirat that this had more to do with, the conditions and how England batted, or do you think, Rohit Sharma has to pull up his sock and be better tactically?
See, you can put it in many ways. You can put it on the captain, ki bhai, have a bit more funky fields if you want to do that. Try something else. Don't have a boundary rider for folks. वो नहीं boundary मारने वाला इतना. But still, you saw that in play. So, what you have to also put into place is all of this is definitely pre-planned, and I feel with this management, it is sticking to this for too long. Now, it is something that we've all felt at different stages, and we've said this out loud as well. It's like we will stick to what we had planned. We will not go away from it until and unless something very drastic happens. So I think that is also a place for improvement. And again, it is for improvement for everybody. It's not just for the captain, but also for the bowlers. Because sometimes I feel we give away that accountability factor to the bowlers and blame on the captain. कि भाई captain कुछ और नहीं कर रहा है. But the same thing can be done by the bowler as well, right? You can also be part of a bowling group and come up with a plan that said that okay, this is what is not working. Let's try this. Let's try that. So I think in some ways I feel because it's not something that is we're seeing for the first time. It's been like this with this management for some time now. So it's also playing to the perception. As I think Neural Hacks with Vasan put out that it's the fear of getting hit for a lot of boundaries. So and as you said, कि ये starting से हो रहा था. So you are not reacting to it. You have already preempted that this is how it will be, and this is how we want to stick to it, and will not change. So uh, it is a type of captaincy that at times doesn't work. You at times, I'm sure many of us feel that we are missing the theatrics or the cinema that you had when Virat was the skipper. But then every captain leads differently. Some want to be expressive, some want to have more plans. So this is a test for Rohit, and definitely he'll also admit that as Padi said, there have been occasions where you have felt that you could have done a bit more. Like this very example. How many no balls has Jadeja bowled? So many of them. So and it hasn't stopped at any point of time. So that's also controllable. And I wouldn't blame this on Rohit. This is something that you would expect Jadeja himself to control. It's not somebody new as well. So I think these are all small things that I feel the bowlers should also be held accountable to it. कि भाई हम कुछ क्यों नया नहीं ट्राई करें, हम कुछ क्यों नहीं बोल रहे कि रोहित को कि भाई आप ये करो या वो करो. So I think that could also be a thing to look out for in the coming games.
Definitely.
And there is no inexperienced bowler in this lineup, both in terms of matches played and the ages. I mean, almost everyone's above 30, so you cannot say that they need a guiding hand or something. So that's a valid point that bowlers should also step in.
100%, 100%. Let's take some questions before we, of course, move on to the first segment. A lot of interesting comments. Let's start with this. Adhyan Bhai, matlab spam karne ki zarurat nahi hai. We've seen it. We'll definitely take it up as well. He goes on to say, the most likable things about this Bazball era is that they've backed players with poor starts, 2 test careers, like Pope and Zach. And will we be back to those raging rank turners from the second test? I'll take this question because there's something again we were discussing off air. We've seen this happen rather way too many times. कि पहले टेस्ट में थोड़ा सा इधर उधर कुछ हो जाए, बॉस सेफ खेलेंगे, एकदम माइंड फील्ड क्रिएट करेंगे, which technically is actually the wrong way of looking at it because वो अपने बैटर्स को भी उतना ही परेशान करेगा. Gurkat, are you expecting something similar to happen? You're thinking Vizag में It's just going to be,
I'd,
spin.
I'd hope not. I'd hope not. Because Joe Root ended with a 4 for. If you have a rank turner, he could easily end up with a 5 for or a 6 for. You never know. I'd hope not. I genuinely hope that that is not the case. If anything, what should come out of this test match is that you have to, I mean, yes, in terms of bowling, you must look for plans B and C as well, but you have to ask batters to not leave runs out there. That should be the primary inference or conclusion that should come from this test match, that don't leave runs out there, especially first inning runs, because matches are more often than not set up in the first innings. I'm not saying that you will not that matches cannot be won in second innings. There are cases, but anyone who's watched fair enough of test matches would know that it is the first innings that set up the games, and from there you build on. So don't leave out runs in the first innings.
Alright, Nikhil bhai, आपके लिए एक दूसरा सवाल है. Let's take sports fans question. He says, if you're not able to find Siraj use today as well, when the game is when the game is drifting away, can we look to pick Kuldeep Yadav for the next test? What do you think? Of course, it will be conditions, specific, so to say. But let's assume that the conditions would be similar to what we saw in Hyderabad. Do you think there's any merit in having someone like a Kuldeep in and just play with one pacer?
I feel it is too risky. Too risky in terms of you are putting too much pressure then on Bumrah alone. And when you know that it's a long series and there is a, I'm not saying an important IPL, there is an important World Cup coming up. Just very very immediately after that. तो मेरे को नहीं चाहिए कि again I'm not saying कि I'm thinking too long term and not thinking for this series, but I just feel as Paji also mentioned, जो हमने बात करी about getting to newer folks as the ones who will step up when Bumrah doesn't. It will not happen if you keep looking for the easiest way out all the time. Okay, it is going to spin. Let's play Kuldeep. Then you're not grooming Siraj at all in terms of okay, what is the best way out?
All right, I'm
I
not
think
sure if
Nikhil,
it's
I think
yeah.
Nikhil got stuck. Yeah,
No worries.
my viewpoint on this is that even if you play four spinners, you will not be able to make use of all of them. In fact, if anything, it will sort of stop the captain from using a spinner for a longer spell, because sometimes too many options is also not a good thing, because you are spoiled for choices and you get confused in terms of who you want to back. So and it's something we have discussed earlier. What if there is reverse swing on offer, or what if you want to go for a short ball ploy? You cannot just do it with one pacer. And yeah, three spinners are good enough. Three spinners are more than good enough. If at all you want to play Kuldeep, play him in place of one of the spinners.
Fair enough. Clint Francis seems like a new name. Hello, Clint. Make sure you've subscribed to us if you haven't already. And I know I haven't brought this up so far. Guys, please make sure you've hit the like button if you haven't already. And also, please do subscribe to us if you haven't already. Gurkirat Paji, what's an unsafe, what's an unsafe score on the slow pace pitch for tomorrow? How much do you think should India, restrict England to? Or rather, what should the target be, basically, to put it simply? क्या लगता है आपको?
See, the new ball will be due in about 2 hours, and I think batting with the new ball is not going to be easy, because the ball will bounce more, turn more, it will get more purchase out of the pitch. I think India's target should be to not give more than 50 runs to the last 4 wickets. I do think 175 is chaseable here because the pitch is on the slower side. Uh, the odd ball will keep low because it is the fourth day, and I also feel why India should back themselves to score, to chase 175 or something on those lines, is because of the bowling attack as well, which is on display. We saw the lack of control. So 50 runs, if India can keep England down to 175, they should be confident. However, if England reach 200, I think that will be something that will give England a lot of confidence and a fair chance. And absolutely, I feel that the heavy roller, which will take place before in the changeover between the innings, I think that will be crucial as well.
Definitely. And one more thing. So, since you mentioned 175, 175 is what India would be happy with. if we look at the English dressing room, do you think they would also be not too unhappy? If they are given a target or rather a total of 175 to defend, still something to play around with, right?
I don't think they could have asked for more after being 163 for 5. I think that's a lot of runs from there. So I think they'll take it. I think they'll take it. If anything, they'll go back and look at how they bowled in the first innings, because I don't think there was a lot that they could have done with the bat in the first innings. And in the second innings also they've batted well, because India were pretty much spot on with the ball in the first innings. So both the teams will look at the second innings of the game, Indian batters as to how they lost their wickets, and England bowlers as to how they really lacked a lot of control. Maybe even their tactics, with Hartley bowling as much as he did.
All right, fair enough. And Nikhil bhai, meanwhile, has updated us कि उनके यहाँ light गई हुई है. Let's hope that he's able to make a comeback soon. It's time for us to now move on to the first segment, which of course is Showstopper. I don't think we have any doubts in terms of who the showstopper is for this game. But before that, let's call our own showstopper. Nikhil Bhai has made an entrance, so let's have him around. There we go. But yeah, let's have the graphic on as well. There we go for that as well. Ollie Pope, 148 unbeaten, 208 balls, a strike rate in excess of 70, 17 fours. And I've lost count of how many of them came off of reverse sweeps and reverse scoops and all of that. Nikhil Bhai, we spoke about him briefly in the beginning, but again, a top-notch innings, right, from him, especially given how the kind of form he was coming in. In fact, he averaged, 16 in the second innings in tests before today. Given all of that history and all of that, sort of storyline, so to say, behind this, a fantastic innings from him.
100%. Anirudh shared a stat with us about the number of reverse sweeps that Joe Root had it in the entirety, and how easily Pope was able to execute them. It just tells you that there has always been something that's got him here, and it is great for somebody like him also to get that one inning, because these are the times and under pressure when you want to stand up. So I think for Ollie Pope also to have such kind of innings after having a string of low scores in third innings, it's also something that he will be very, very happy and proud about. And it's also the confidence and the ease. Sometimes you look at some of the innings and you feel कि, oh, he had a few chances and things went his way. But I think with Pope you can't say that much. He took the risk, but those are the games and those are the shots that he often plays, and they came off, and he deserves all the applause for not just being there, but being there for so long and batting England into a position where they could do something with the score.
100%. Gurkirat, before sort of I let you, talk about Ollie Pope, let's take this question. Let's start with this as well. This is, I'm guessing, in relation to what you also had to say earlier, how it becomes difficult given the slow turn and given how the ball goes softer. Vasant goes on to say, Paji and Nix, isn't that sweep shot should be a go-to shot when the ball is turning square? Cuts and reverse sweeps and sweeps, so square of the wicket, isn't the place to go for. What do you think of this?
I think a lot depends upon the batter's comfort uh, which spinner is bowling, because uh, to do it to a spinner who's fastish and doesn't really bowl that full, it can lead to a lot of trouble, because you're never sure of the bounce, or the bounce that will happen off the pitch. And I think the best way to smother turn on slower decks is still either to come down the track to smother the spin, or go back, let the ball spin, and then play. So you can look at those shots to unsettle a few bowlers, especially when the ball's not turning that much. But then you have to be really, really sure of the bounce of the pitch. If the bounce is also inconsistent, then I feel sweep really becomes a dangerous shot, because it brings in all forms of dismissals into play. You can get bowled, you can get LBW, you can also get caught out. And we saw how few dismissals were there of being caught out. It was either bowled or LBW. So there is no right answer to it. I think a lot of it also depends upon who the batter is, because if you have batters who have a really good reach in terms of being tall, then they can smother the spin while using that sweep shot as well. Like we've seen it with Matthew Hayden, in probably 2 decades ago. Or you can look at when Kevin Peterson had that 100. He was using his feet, and he was using his reach. Khwaja played the sweep very well. Again, a taller batter who could use his reach. So a lot of it depends upon a lot of factors and not one single factor.
Fair enough. We'll take one more question before we move on to the next segment. Pranav Anand goes on to ask us: is the morning session the toughest time to bat on these type of slow surfaces, as it quickens up slightly, and with the turn on offer like the surface has, Root's ball was slipping through, so a morning collapse perhaps it could be expected tomorrow. Nikhil bhai, you can probably take this up.
I'll just say one thing. There are times when you feel which roller is used, how it is used is also very, very critical, because again, these are the things that don't often come to us in terms of information. Okay, the light roller were used or the heavy roller were used, and all of it behaves and makes an impact on how the pitch behaves. There are plenty of occasions where you've seen the the roller being used flattens it out in terms of holds it together before after an hour is passed, and then you see things happen. So I think it is not always black and white in terms of what that roller is doing. Sometimes the best time to bat could be the first hour after the roller is used. So I think it will not just be a one particular type of the day or time of the day. Yeah, if there is swing and seam on offer, then I definitely feel that yes, there are times when you feel the morning session, while the pitch may be at times flat, but the conditions are such that you are getting some movement, so then it becomes a different ball game. So I don't think it's a simple answer, not even for the same venue. Forget about having different about the different venues.
Fair enough. It's also now time for us to move on to the second segment. We've got in our predictions, it's at 1-1 right now, to put it simply. Pehle din acha tha, dusra din bura tha. Let's hope that pattern continues so that we get our predictions right, which I have a feeling, kya expect kar sakte in terms of predictions. Anyways, it's time to move on to the second segment, which of course is what's next. It is prediction time. Gurkirat, let's start with you. 176, 126 is the lead right now. 316 for 6 is what England are at. How much do you think are they going to be able to add to this tally, and how much do you think India will be chasing in the last innings?
I am hoping not more than 50 runs, because the new ball is going to be due in about 3 overs time, and it's going to be a challenge to play the new ball on this surface because of the purchase it will get. So, and I goes without saying that if you get Pope's wicket early, then you can easily trigger a collapse. So I'm hoping for not more than 50 runs to be scored by England.
All right, so 175 is or there and thereabouts is what Gurkirat is saying India will be chasing in the final innings. Nikhil bhai, what about you? How much do you think England will end up with, and how much is India chasing in the last innings?
Hopefully less than 200, just giving them that much more leeway, क्योंकि roller use होगा should be better to bat. And again, what India start with, that's going to be very, very crucial. And what are the plans, because you have to at times make things happen as well. So hopefully less than 200, and then they can take two sessions. I'm perfectly fine with it, because till now you haven't seen the surface break as much. So that is something that gives me that confidence ke runs banana आसान है. So England will also score a few uh, a few of those runs early morning, but hopefully not too much. And yeah, those के नीचे. Cheers.
Fair enough. Let me play the devil's advocate. Let's hope that England get more
Hardly
than 100.
surprising.
Hardly surprising. Back to my usual self. Kitna hi time mein aisa, matlab, how long can I sort of put on a charade? So yeah, back to my
Correct.
usual self. But I'm hoping England add at least 100 runs, if not more, to their tally. A target of 225 in the final innings will make it very spicy, and it'll make it very interesting. अगर देखना ही है, अगर मैं अपना Sunday Test match देखने पे, I won't say waste, but use करने वाला हूँ. I want it to be interesting. I want it to be entertaining. So yeah, sorry
So
Nikhil, bhai, you were
okay,
saying something.
then so let's have another prediction one round. That what is the score that India would hope that this game doesn't go to at all? Okay, if it goes above this score, India would feel that they have let this slip away from them. What would that score be?
As
So
in, you're
let's
saying
taking out the worst case scenario.
exactly. The game is done
I
for
think if
India,
England
basically.
I think if England end their innings at around 400, India would be very disappointed. Very, very disappointed. because you had them at 163 for 5. From there on, if England get to 400, it's really disappointing, especially with the benefit of having the new ball tomorrow and bowling to the lower half and not even the top half.
Interesting. I was actually going to say 450, basically a target of around 250. That's where
250.
India would be like, they're done with the game. Ki boss, ab to yahan se to jeet hi nahi sakte. 400 at least, you can say ki, okay, that's a target of about 200, 210. India would still be well and truly in the game. It's not like India have been battered out of the game. This is my personal opinion. Nikhil bhai, what about you though? Like, how much do you think should England score for India to feel, ki boss, they're out of the game? It's hard. It's impossible to score this much.
See, impossible. I think might be difficult to say because again, we're breaking. We haven't seen it as of now, but I feel as Paji said, if they get to 450, so I feel that India would really feel, and the conditions may not be as bad, but England will be far more confident, and they'll try a lot more things to put a lot of pressure on India. And because the reason why I'm quoting those extra 50 runs is it gives them that cushion of being very very aggressive also. Okay, we have that cushion and that we can allow a half an hour of bad bowling or a half an hour of very risky bowling which doesn't work out our way. So I think uh, anything above over 450 if England posts, then I think India will feel a bit of pressure. Rest eventually, of course, depends on the deck. If it remains flat or slow turning, then I think you could expect India to then not bat the way they did in the first innings. But अगर वैसा नहीं होता, तो the game could really take a massive U-turn.
I mean, India will for sure face some pressure if that happens to be the case. But Vasant here trying to put me under pressure. I'm just trying to think. He goes on to say, guys, I know you won't see Tamil commentary, but a funny thing happened where an ex-Indian fielding coach literally ate his words written on paper. And that reminded me of 83, of course. Akshay, will you do that? Will you do that too if you're wrong? But are you talking about this? I just want to be clear. What are you talking about? And in all fairness, this is just a prediction. I'm not saying it
हाँ,
was ये
nobody
होगा ही
wants nobody
exactly,
wants this to happen. We are just saying what could be the worst case scenario for India. So again, we are
exactly.
just getting it out of the system before somebody thinks about it too much.
Correct, correct, correct. This is our way of trying to reverse jinx it कि बॉस हमने ये तो बोल दिया तो अभी हाँ ठीक है चलो. But we're in for a very, very, very entertaining contest. That's for sure tomorrow. Ollie Pope has played a fantastic knock. Let's see if he gets to his 150 and potentially even 200 tomorrow. A lot of things to look forward to. Right now, it's time to move on to the last segment, which of course is Googly. Yep. So yesterday, this was the question we'd asked you guys. Jadeja has done the double of scoring a 50 and takes 3 wickets in the same test 17 times, the second most by an Indian. Who leads the list? Of course, who but the one and only the OG all rounder. It is Kapil Dev. Couple of you also got it right. So congratulations, Kushal Shah and Vishal Kulkarni, for getting the answers right. So you are technically the first winners of Googly. There'll be a lot more Googlies going forward. Let's now also bring up today's Googly, which is there you go. Ashwin has dismissed Stokes today for the 12th time in tests, the joint most for an Indian bowler against the batter, which is the other bowler batter combination with 12 dismissals. So just like Ashwin, there's another bowler who's taken another batter, or rather who's dismissed another batter out for 12 times. We want to know who the bowler is and who the batter is. Do again wait for the live stream to end. You've got to put in your answers in the main comment section. So wait for the live stream to end. Until then, you can of course hold on to your answers because you're only going to help others. Introspect, I see a couple of answers. Neural hacks with Vasant as well. Wait, for the live stream to end. I guess I was too late in thinking that up as well. We'll take this one last, comment before we wrap this up. Adhian Single once again going on to say, I feel that Rohit could have used Siraj better by setting up a short ball ploy from round the wicket. He doesn't reverse the ball as much as other Indian bowlers do and sometimes lacks control too. Gurkirat, fair point this?
Yeah, so like I was saying, I think it did not happen purely because of how the first session went. Could have done it. It's something that we have discussed. Short ball ploy, I'm not sure what would have been the success rate of that on this pitch given the lack of pace. Maybe, if anything, those balls would have been set up to be hit very easily towards the mid wicket area for most of the batters, because you have to realize that a lot of these batters will not really mind pace on the ball. So yeah, it's that. So maybe on some other pitch, maybe if you were playing at a venue like say Bangalore, or maybe even Mumbai, where that the ball can really rise, then, but there is the risk of short boundaries. So it really has to be seen as to from what end and what angle are you trying to attempt that.
Yeah, and just to add to the bit, see, there are times where, and there are oppositions where you feel that you can get away by trying stuff, and it will not cost you because they will not go for it. But this is not a side that is going to do that. This is a side that is going to take it on if you get it wrong. So, in the mind of the captain who is already thinking a bit conservative and a bit cautious, this this point it also comes into play. Okay, what if they go after the bowling and it doesn't come off, and then we give away too many runs? So maybe that line of thought also comes into play. Okay, who are you playing, and how likely are they to then run away with it? So I think that is also crucial if you have in terms of opposition also, and the decks, of course.
All right, so it is time for us to wrap this review right now. Tomorrow we know what is on cards. England are at 316 for 6. There's, of course, Rehan Ahmed along with Ollie Pope. Rehan Ahmed has been, nicely called, or rather nicknamed Lara here amongst our circles. He definitely has that backlift. And I've already mentioned my sort of, my soft spot, so to say, for him. I genuinely like what I've seen of him. So, yeah, let's hope he also comes up with an entertaining cameo. There's Ollie Pope batting at 148, sorry. Lots to look forward to. We will be here sharp at 5:15, assuming the game goes on till the end of day's play, which is fair to assume at this point in time because, yeah, we are hoping for England to chase 170 or 180. If that's not the case, we will be back in time probably around 15-20 minutes after the game ends. Until then, it's a goodbye from all of us. Have a great day. Good night.
Sure.